victims of climate change are more diverse than those presently threatened by habitat loss. And for example, species extinction has a lot to do with climate crisis, climate change that is happening in our country. So I'm going to talk a little bit about climate change, and then I'm going to move on to one of the important aspects of individuals' contribution to climate change, which is individuals and of course organizations in increasing the carbon footprints by their daily activities, by industrial or by any organizations. This is going to be very not an expert talk, but yes, a very general knowledge talk, which I would like to discuss with my students, with the students who are present over here. A little bit of my observations and my opinion about that. Climate change, as we all know, is a change in the is related to so many things in terms of global warming, in terms of ozone layer depletion, in terms of population, in terms of carbon emissions, and of course change in the cycle of. We have been observing around us, like in April we are observing fall, the Feb fall, delayed and prolonged rains, and winters being delayed and shortened. All these are the effects of climate change around us. This we can observe around us all the time. The global temperatures have risen by 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now 1.5 degrees Celsius is an increase of the Earth's temperature, which means that the Earth has fever by 1.5 degrees Celsius. And this fever, I'm very sorry to say, but is not going to decline anytime soon. Even if we have zero carbon emissions, this temperature is almost impossible to put down. It's almost going to increase further. Now, which is a very sorry sight. Our Earth has fever. Now, temperature increase can create ineluctable biological complexities. Every species has to worry about finding food, avoiding predators, diseases and other enemies, selecting the places and other physical features that provide them protection and that provide them the facility for breeding, etc. Now, climate change affects biodiversity. A very simple example that we see around us is the absence of house sparrow, which is no longer visible during the summers because of temperature rises. Dr. Srinivasan also pointed upon the climate change and issues on that. Like for example, migration of birds at a fixed time when flowering time of plants happens. Now when the seasons have delayed, the migration also has got affected, and so has the entire flora and fauna, the entire balance, ecological balance, having lost its tandem. So a study by Sekar Sioglu et al. Predicted the fate of 8,500 land bird species of the world. They predicted that 400 to 550 of them will go extinct by 2100 for a warming estimate of 2.8 degrees Celsius, with a further of 2,150 species at a risk of extinction, which is a very alarming thing. And this is why we call it a climate crisis or a climate emergency. It's not a climate condition that we are facing. At present, we are in a position of calling it an emergency, which needs to be tackled immediately. We get to see birds and such diverse fauna and flora up hills nowadays, which were normally found in the lower regions as well. As you travel towards, as I was traveling towards to a trip to Himachal, Mandi, which was supposed to be very green and very cool at those times, we were staying at a hotel, and they said that now we have started using ACs over here, where we wouldn't even need to use fans during summers. Now they have installed AC, which was totally alarming. Dehradun, for example, used to be very green and used to have so much of rainfalls. Now this phenomenon has changed, and Dehradun is very warm and very less green at this time. This climate change, as I mentioned, one of the important features is the carbon footprints that we are releasing every minute, every day. As an individual, carbon footprints. What else we can do? What is carbon footprints? Carbon footprints means, the Google definition says, is the amount of carbon dioxide or other related gases released into the atmosphere as a result of the activities of a particular individual, organization, and community. This means whatever we do, even for example, a cup of tea that you have, it releases 87 gram of carbon dioxide. Black tea, for example, or green tea releases 48 grams of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. How does it happen? This is called as food carbon footprints. Footprints is the greenhouse gas emissions produced by growing, rearing, farming, processing, transporting, storing, cooking, and disposing of the food that you eat. Food produces almost 8 tons of emissions per household, and which means 17% of the total. Now imagine us having a cup of tea, and if by chance we are having a cup of tea in a disposable cup, which increases the carbon footprints even more. So one cup of tea is costing us 87 grams of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We can imagine, we can assume how much an individual is contributing to this, to the pollution, to the carbon emissions in the air. Now, let's take one more example. Cars that we drive, cars per kilometer, or the cars per kilometer, normal car emits 120.1 gram per kilometer of carbon dioxide in the air. That means 4.6 metric tons of carbon dioxide in a year. We say that metro rides and electric cars might have are helping us really save the carbon emissions, but the irony is that metro ride or electric cars might have more carbon footprints because they are not produced in India. They've been imported from elsewhere, and the technology that is used uses more carbon emissions, causes more carbon emissions than ever. So this was my observation, that carbon footprints is something which every individual is contributing. We, as in our individual capacity, can do whatever possible to at least reduce. If not, we can bring it back. If not, we can ease Earth from the fever that it is having. We can at least help it not increasing its fever even further. So what all we can do, there are some observations that I had, and I'm just going to share them with you. As Anu ma'am said in the beginning, every individual matters. So one should understand that one single step by us also matters a lot. Now, the first thing that I feel that that can be done in the field of at least controlling the carbon emissions is a rigorous kind of R&D in waste management, because it is not possible that we can survive without carbon emissions. But yes, with with a very advanced kind of R&D in waste management, the industries, the factories, they can at least control their waste management. Now, whoever tries to reduce their carbon emissions, it costs them a lot in the beginning, which is a sad part, because in that case, I guess government or the authorities or other organizations should be providing subsidies for those industries, those factories who are controlling their carbon emissions, who are doing waste management in a very, very wise way. There was a term called as green economy share, which I heard somewhere, which I read about somewhere, which means that government or the authorities should fix up a level of carbon emissions, the capacity of carbon emissions which any industry or any factory releases, and they could put a bar on that, and those who do not cross that bar should be rewarded with some green money, which can be redeemed as real money, and which can encourage other industries, the small scale industries which do not have enough capital to invest in R&D for waste management. They would also be encouraged to earn more and more green points, green money, which can be redeemed as currency. And the bigger companies, the bigger industries which have good R&D, they should also contribute in that. They should also encourage this kind of green economy, green economy share. What we can do at our end is that we can at least stop using those one-time, single-time use plastics, which everybody is talking about. And also, this COVID-19 has taught us to at least wash our utensils, at least do certain things on our own, so that we are not dependent on those single-use things. So at least one can afford a cup which can be reused, maybe reusable crockery, reusable utensils. We can encourage more than the single-use kind of plastics or single-use utensils, which are not only polluting the environment, but in the production of such things also the carbon emissions are increasing. Right now, if somebody is watching me, at my back there is an AC running. Of course, in a summer weather we need ACs, but we can regularize. We can at least control the use of ACs, the use of refrigerators. The COVID-19, some people are still observing certain strict rules about not using ACs and refrigerators, not using these things. We have seen, or I have read some in all these news, that the air quality has improved, or the Delhi air quality has improved. So the air quality improved, the climate at least showing some relief, nature at least having some relief from the exploitation. This is a good sign. I think development at what cost? Some of the speakers said about development, but at what cost? At least there should be one term called as conscious development. So everybody, it is imperative to have development, but at least development in a conscious way is a wiser way to survive. This was my observation. As a member of that climate crisis squad, we tried to reach out to college students. We tried to talk to them about carbon footprints. In the beginning, we had some students who volunteered, but gradually they lost interest and they were not at all a part of that climate crisis squad, not at all ready to participate, to increase their strength. And somewhere it was only some of us, some of the teachers, some of the experts who were left out, and some students coming in and going out, and this could not be a very successful venture in terms of adding, or in terms of having more and more student participation. I can see there are many students from CVS and other colleges in this webinar. This is my earnest request to all of you to please at least think about your carbon footprints, and at least brainstorm about how you can reduce your carbon footprints. Thank you so much.